Okay guys, we're back in the kitchen. So yesterday, today's Monday. Yesterday I made the homemade salsa and the homemade taco seasoning mix. So today we're going to have burritos for lunch. And I'm going to show you how I make my homemade tortillas. Yes, I still buy store-bought, but oh, these are so much better. Anyway, I'll come up here and I'll show you. I've got 3 cups of all-purpose flour already measured in here. There's my flour. And it calls for 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I'll tell you how I learned to make this is from, I've got a lot of really awesome Mexican friends, and they've taught me a lot about how to make Mexican food. Now, it's not near as good as any of theirs, so we'll call it Americanized, but we like it. So, then what I'm going to do is whisk my dry ingredients together. I like that whisk, don't I? Make sure they're well mixed up. And I just brought up a new jar of my home rendered lard from the refrigerator. I don't know if you heard that pop, but it did seal. Sometimes they seal, sometimes they don't. I don't can them. I don't can my lard. Some people do. I just put the lid on and it'll self-seal because it's so hot. Or I always just store it in the refrigerator. I know some people do the freezer. And it's pretty hard. So I'm going to let it soften up a little bit and then I'll be back. Alright guys, I went ahead and dipped out my lard. It calls for 1/3 cup of lard. And 1/3 cup is 5 1/3 tablespoons. How many of you used to say, why do I have to learn math? I'm never going to use math. Well, I was one of those people, although math and science I loved. But you use math every day, even in basic cooking, to help you figure out how to adjust recipes or anything like that. And I used to say, why do I have to take English classes? When am I ever going to use this in real life? Well, so you don't sound like an idiot when you're making comments on YouTube. That's a good starting place. So anyway, sorry for you idiots that didn't go to high school and sit down and make all your comments, but anyway, so now what I'm going to do is I put in my lard, and it still might be a little bit too hard, but I'm just going to work it in, kind of like you do a pie crust. Work it all in until it's, I don't know, kind of crumbly looking. I don't think you really want to sit and watch me do that. You can do it with a pastry knife, you can do it with a fork. But several years ago, I started watching people working in the butter, shortening, the fats, whatever they use in their pie crust. And I've watched them use it in other recipes, and actually it's a lot easier. And especially with these tortillas, because as you're going to see in a little bit, when I get this all worked in, you're going to add and do a lot of kneading by hand. So let me get this worked in, and I'll be back and show you how it looks. Okay guys, I got the lard all worked in, and it's just kind of crumbly. And if you hold it together, it'll kind of hold itself together. So the next thing that I'm going to put in is 1 cup of very, very hot water. And I doubt you want to watch me walk across the kitchen and walk back. But I'll start it back up when I get that water good and hot. Okay, I've got my 1 cup of hot water, and I just pour it right in the bowl, and it's hot. So what I'm gonna do is start kneading you just work the water into the flour mixture. And it's kind of gummy at first, kind of sticky, but it doesn't take long to get it all worked in. You might want to see what it looks like when I'm kneading it. But I'm always surprised when this comes together. Then I'm going to get it worked in. Yeah, maybe you can watch me do that. I'm almost there. Because once you get it all worked in and it all comes together, then you knead it for 10 to 15 minutes. And yes, it really, see how it's starting to come together and just shape into a ball? And it's just coming off of my fingers. Yes, I washed my hands. I told you that yesterday. That's why I usually have a towel over my shoulder, because I'm always washing my hands. So I'm going to sit here and do this for 10 to 15 minutes, and it gets all the dough off the side of the bowl. Actually, my fingers will probably be cleaned off too, because it just kind of picks it all off, and it will shape into a really nice dough ball. Now, I'll show you that later, but what I was going to tell you, my Mexican friends are able just to roll them balls and shape them into tortillas by hand. Some of those ladies get up every morning before they go to work, and they'll make a batch of fresh tortillas. And boy, I have to admire them, because I don't know that I could do that. Well, I could if I practiced, but anyway, after having homemade tortillas, these are so much better than the store-bought. Okay, I'll keep kneading and I'll be back. Okay guys, I've got it all kneaded. Been sitting here doing this for, I don't know, at least 15 minutes. But it's smooth. It's not sticky. And the next thing you do is you just roll off little balls, all depending on the size of the tortilla you want. Me, I get whatever size I end up rolling out, because I don't know how to do that the way. Oh, I don't know, see? If you're a particular weigh them out, they say you get at least a dozen tortillas out of this batch. I obviously don't make them as big as you're supposed to, but oh well. What I do is I go ahead and roll a few of these balls out before I get started. And like I said, I'm not as good as my friends who can just do that by hand. Kind of like a pizza maker, you know. Anyway, I'll get things cleaned up and ready to go. Okay, what I do is, the first mistake I made when I made my first batch of tortillas is I thought you had to fry them in oil or lard or something. And after talking to my friends, they said, oh no, no, no. You don't put anything in the skillet. And I don't use flour on my countertop. I just clean it good. And I use a rolling pin. I don't know how to do it by hand. And I just kind of flatten them out as best I can. Put them down on my counter. Let me move you down here. I've already got one rolled out. I just got it laying over my bowl, waiting for my skillet to get really, really hot. And I got it laid out there, and I just start rolling away until it's thin, and I flip it over several times. I guess mostly just to make sure it's not sticking. That's an odd shaped one, isn't it? Oh well, I bet it tastes the same, don't you? For any of you perfectionists out there, that may not be very good. Works for me, tastes the same. And what do I always say? I do it that way because I can. So let's move over and I'll show you the skillet. I got it good and hot. First of all, this is one of my cast iron skillets, my absolute favorite. My skillet is good and hot. And I'll just plop that in there. And somewhere I have a pair of tongs. I'm going to try to get this down to where you can see it better. Okay. You don't put anything in the skillet. This skillet is fairly decently seasoned, meaning it's smooth from all the years of use. And there are little bubbles that begin to appear, and they'll come up just like you would expect with any tortilla. Get one side golden brown without ripping it over. Flip it over, and as soon as it gets nice and brown like that, your tortilla is done. Guys, there's my tortilla. What I have over here on this plate is a dampened tea towel. Ooh, those tea towels again. And I will just layer them in there, and that will keep them soft and keep them from drying out. I wanted to show you what I was talking about when I said they bubble up. I can tell right now that one's not done. It's the baking soda that does that. And there you go. I'll just keep making tortillas and let you know when I'm done. Okay guys, I went and got another griddle because I wanted to hurry this along. These are my last two tortillas, and I'm just stacking them in here in this dampened towel. And every little bit I add a little bit more moisture to the towel. It steams them and keeps them soft. And I've ended up with 14 tortillas. So next, I'm going to use these tortillas to make burritos.